Hey guys, it's Doug with North Table Mountain Christmas Lights, and I want to go into a little bit more detail on how I built my mega tree. Now recently I've had quite a few people ask me about the tree, specifically about the bottom base or skirt that I do on it, because it provides a very unique look and sequencing. So we'll go into some more detail here on how I have this built, and then I'll go into X-Lights and show you how I model this in X-Lights so that it actually looks like this on the preview window, and then you can sequence to it and see exactly how it would actually look in real life. Now the tree itself is nothing fancy. It's a standard mega tree built around an ASAT pole, 360 degree tree, 32 strings. The upper section is 53 pixels at 3-inch spacing, and the skirt is 19 pixels. The only thing kind of maybe different about it is instead of using the portable hole, I have dug a concrete footing 3 feet deep. It helps out for two reasons. One, I'm on a slope, which may or may not come out in the camera. And the second reason is I live in a very windy area, and so we get lots of wind here, and that just helps stabilize it along with all my guy wires. Now the bottom ring is something that's new this year, and before I was using 1-inch electrical conduit, and it just wasn't strong enough for my needs, so I had this fabricated at a metal shop here locally. It's made out of steel, and it comes in 4 pieces, so it allows me to break this apart for easier stowage. So the sections here, this is one of the 4 sections where it's joined together, and you can see this piece actually has an inner piece that comes into about here, and this bolt, you just cinch it down, not too tight, but that just holds the sections together. The ring is tied to the ground with these heavy-duty UV rated zip ties. I think these things are rated for like 250 pounds or something like that, and I have 16 of them. Almost every 2 feet I have an anchor point and a zip tie which holds this ring to the ground, and as you can see, it's pretty level here to the ground. These anchors are spiral anchors. They're 8 inches, only 8-inch spiral anchors, I believe. They don't need to be that deep on this tree since I have so many of them. As for my guy wires, which I have like over there, those are the big 16-inch spiral anchors, and they do a really good job holding the tree down with the wind. Now you'll see here I'm using J-hooks to hold the pixel strips to the ring, and I made this switch last year. I was just using the ball bungees for everything, and this is so much better to go with the J-hooks because they're adjustable. So you can see on this one there's not a lot of thread exposed. I'm pretty much at the bottom of that one. This one I have more thread, so it's had to loosen that one up and so on. But that's why you have these J-hooks. It allows you to individually adjust the tension on these strips so they're uniform. So that works out really well. And I still use my ball bungees this year to hold the center ring on, or the skirt. So you can see here, the ball bungee just goes right into the Biscoyo strip, and then I have it wrapped around the J-hook, and then that goes back on here, like so, and there's quite a bit of tension on here. But because that's around the J-hook, it's not going to go anywhere in the wind, so that works really well for stabilizing the center section. And you may just notice here that like I have a couple pixels together there, 3 here, and so on. Just ignore that. That's just how I have to deal with being on a slope here. So those are actually blacked out in X-Lights as a submodel. But in case you just happen to see that and go, what on earth is he doing with all those pixels together? That's what it is, and it works really well. Now as far as the center section here, what I'm doing is I'm using my old topper. This is the ABS topper from Biscoyo. I used that last year on the top of my tree, and now I moved it to the bottom. I just enlarged the hole in the center to go around the ASAT pole. And you can see the center section too is also off the ground. Those strips are probably about 5 inches off the ground, and that helps if we get a little bit of snow. They're not fully covered, but even if they are fully covered, it gives a really cool look to see that in the snow. I'll get a little bit closer look here at the topper, and you can see these are about 3-inch, quarter 20 bolts that go bolt from the bottom up, and then I just have a washer, split washer, and then the nut that holds it down. And they stick up far enough that, you know, these strips, especially under the tension they're in, they're not going anywhere. And the threads actually help kind of lock them in. The threads on the bolts kind of bite into the Mercer clips in there, and they're not going anywhere. And one thing, see if I can get the camera to come down here all the way under, is I have a coupling, PVC coupling, and I drilled and tapped for a 1/4 20 thread there and put that little 1-inch bolt under there. And then with the ratchet, I can just tighten that down, and that just cinches against the ASAP pole, and that keeps everything, keeps the topper from settling down to the ground. So that's how I do that, and it works really well. I'm very pleased with that. The one thing I'm not pleased with, and is this mess, this tangled rat's nest of wiring. And I made a mistake on this, and I'll show you what it is so you will not make the same mistake. So what you need to do is, obviously this is the very first pixel here. Run your pigtail through that hole. If you run your pigtail through the hole, it'll be vertical and won't be loose here, where it has to come out the side. So just run your pigtail through the hole before you do the soldering, and you'll be good to go on that. And then the pigtails, then you can just come out here and zip tie them to the main pole. Everything's out of the way. You know, I got away with it this year with 32 strings, but next year I'm increasing my Mega Tree probably to 48 or 64 strings. I'm not going to be able to put this off the sides, so they're all going to get redone. Actually, I'll probably just get rid of this whole Mega Tree for next year and build a new one. But rest assured, the wires will go through that hole. Not much else here on the tree. Is pretty standard. I went with a 1,000-pound winch instead of the 600, and this is the plate that Biscoyo sells for it. And you can see I'm not utilizing all the holes, because this I think was made for doing the beefed up ASAP pole, but it still worked with this. The holes still work the same, just gotta, I think, do a little bit different with how the spacers work there, but it worked out very well for me to put a little bit stronger winch on this pole, since I put a lot of tension on these strips. There's where my guy wires go into. It's a little system I made that goes into 2 muffler clamps and the eye bolts, and that allows for the put the guy wires on and still be able to raise and lower the pole. It doesn't interfere with that. So I've been very pleased with that the last 2 years. And since we're here, we'll look at the command center. Why not? So we got some F16 V2s. They've been running 2 years. Awesome in here. There's a temperature sensor, and that turns on a fan to help cool it off the sides. One of those is vent. That's the fan. The vent's on the other side. There we go. And so that's a temperature sensor. Got our Pi 3, which is buried back there, and a little fuse block for fusing ahead of the power supplies, or ahead of the controllers. And power supply is just 2 Meanwell 12 volts. And I'm running a little over 2300 pixels on these, but they're down 20% brightness, so I have plenty of overhead on the top end before I would ever be maxing out these power supplies. So they work really well for this year's tree, but obviously next year we're going to have to do a whole new build here. I'll probably just get rid of this and go to a V3, since I'll be running a third or a secondary expansion board and not just the one that I have now. So that's it really for the Mega Tree. Can't really think of anything else here. So now we'll go into the computer and we'll look at how I set this up in Xlights. So now I'm at my computer and I have Xlights open, and I want to show you how I model the Mega Tree with the base inside of Xlights. As you can see, I'm on my default preview screen, and this is my house display for this year. And here's the Mega Tree and the base. Now if I click on the Mega Tree, you'll see I've named this Mega Tree Upper, and it's only the upper section of the tree, and the base itself is done individually. I have 32 individual strings which make up the base, and those were drawn out just like this with that single line tool, and just drew 32 lines and made them in the circle there around the base. To help with drawing, since that's kind of small, I enlarged the the screen for that. So somewhere for me was in the neighborhood of 2600 for width, and I just enlarged the screen and drew those 32 strings on the Megatree there. And once I had it done, I returned it back to the original size. Now, you could also do this with the Megatree model, but it doesn't look right. And if you're wanting to actually draw this bottom to make it look right, you probably are not. This probably isn't going to look good enough for you to do it that way. But if I do 32 strings, perspective, that changes the skew. 10 is the maximum. So I kind of tilted the tree and maybe flatten it out, something like that. Put that there. I mean, if that suits your boat, then go right ahead. You just saved yourself a lot of work. But to me, that wasn't good enough, so I had to delete it and not go with it. Now, the spinner model would work really well, but the developers, there's one thing in here that's not active that you would need to do. So unless they do an update and they include this functionality, you'll see here this doesn't work. 32 strings, I have 19 pixels on the base, but this is the key. Individual start channels is grayed out, and you need to be able to assign the individual start channels. And this would work really good because you could kind of skew it like that. I mean, man, that would just be perfect. Just drop it in there and be done. But like I said, individual start channels, you have to be able to assign individual start channels on all 32 strings. And you can do that on a Megatree model. As you can see here on this section, I've enabled that and I've assigned individual start channels on the Megatree. And on the single strings here for the base, it doesn't matter because they're all individual, because they're each individual strings, you just assign it here at the start channel how you want. And I'll go into it here how I derive at these numbers. It's really not that complicated, and you can get these numbers and model it the way you want. So in any event, I'll assume here we're going to start from scratch, even though I have my setup here. I'll just kind of build this off to the side. So we're going to start with the Megatree, and we're going to build the full Megatree, including the base. So in this case, it's going to be 32 strings, and for pixel count, whatever you have for the full your full Megatree. For me, my bottom is 19 pixels, and the upper section is 53. So it's a total of 72 pixels there. So the Megatree built, and this is what I programmed on for all of last year and half of this year. I just had this over here, kind of like that. Obviously scaled it better or accurately, but this is what I did all my programming on. And most of the programming you're going to do is going to look great on this. But obviously you can't see the bottom, and you don't really know how the effects are really going to look. You just got to trust that it's probably going to look cool when you actually have it out there. And I did that, like I said, for a year and a half, and it worked great. But in this case, we want to go a little bit more accurately and build this exactly how it looks in real life. And so to do that, we need to assign this Megatree that has all the pixels on it to its own preview screen. So to do that, you come to your preview window, and if you don't have, create new preview. In this case, I already have one for the Megatree, so I'm going to assign it there. I'm going to do that right here on the left, this panel, preview, default. We're going to move this to my Megatree preview. So now I've moved it. So the next step is to go to the Megatree preview window we just created. And as you can see, here's the Megatree that we just made. And there's my Megatree from last year. So the only difference on these right now is that I've assigned the start channel to this other tree. And I used the universe start channel method. My tree was universe 300 start channel 1. So I'll just do the same thing here just to show you. So hash 300 start channel 1. The other way you can do that is if you can click this box and you can go, assign it here, universe number 300, drop it down from your list that you created in your setup and start channel 1, hit OK. Either way works. And once you have that, that's all you need. We never really even look at this page at all. That's why I don't even have a background on it. So then we'll go back to default, And now we want to build and create this model. So I'll build a new one off to the side here. So we're going to have a mega tree, and we'll be 32 strings. My upper section, and this is the upper section, and my upper section is 53 pixels. And let's see, perspective, I'm kind of around 7 for my tree, kind of looks something like that. Scale it, not really necessary here, but kind of looks like that. And then you'll do the base as well. And so it starts from the back here. There's always start channel 1 or string 1. So we'll do there, and we'll do another one here. And I'm not going to draw these, but you get the idea. So you do that. So now the next thing we need to do is to create the individual start channels on this mega tree. And you can see it starts off here. This just assigned it start channel 1 because of it was just a new model there. But we're going to click this box, and now that's going to auto-populate all these start channels based on 53 pixels between each one of these strings. So none of these start channels are good, so we're going to clear them out and delete them, but we'll show you what do you want to put in here. And I'll show you on mine, on the tree that's already created. You're going to assign this to a start channel. There's going to be a shadow model, so it's a start channel of the mega tree, and you're going to calculate the individual start channels for each string. So you're creating a shadow model by doing start channel of mega tree. So that's modeling it on this tree that we created, because mine was titled mega tree, and here we're assigning this at mega tree, so at that model, start channel 58, 274, 490, and so on. So how do we derive these numbers? It's pretty easy. So get the calculator, and we know in my tree the base is 19 pixels. So 19 pixels, and we know RGB, we have 3 channels, so 19 times 3 for each pixel. So that's 57 channels comprise the base of each of those strings. So that means the start channel 1 for the upper section would be 58. So 1, we'll just do it here, 1 plus 57, 58. And there we go, mega tree 58. And now the next one, since I have 72 pixels total, it's going to be 72 pixels before the next string for its first pixel at the ring, at the base. So we need to figure out how many channels is 72 pixels. 72 times 3 is 216. So 216, so we'll go 58, that's where we were, plus 216, enter, and that's 274. And I keep doing this, 490, 706, 922, 1138, 1354, so on. Just keep hitting enter on the calculator, and that just calculated every start channel for you. And so you just go through and you're going to add those. Now, like I said, the key here is we're doing this as a shadow model. So as default, it just has none, absolute addressing, but we don't want that. We go start channel, there you go, mega tree, and start channel we said 58. And then the next one, now I already forgot, hit OK. So that's at megatree fix 58. And what did we say? It was 58 plus 216, so 274. So the next one, start of model, megatree, channel, what was it, 264, I think is what it was. So there you go. Or 274 rather. 274. The other way you can do that, as you can see, our next one would be 490. You can also just type this in. So I can type in here at megatree colon 490. So it does the same thing. Okay. Either way, you go through there, and now you've assigned, once you do the whole thing, now you've assigned this upper section of the megatree as a shadow model of the actual megatree that's in that other hidden preview, and all the start channels line up. Now you got to do the same thing for the base. Now to do that for the base, it's the same process. So we're going to know that the base 1 is going to be the same start channel. It's going to be at megatree 1 because it's the very first one. And the way we're going to calculate these out is going to be the same thing. So we know they're 19 pixels. So in this case, we'll get the calculator again. The math is the same math. So we're starting at 1, and we know we have 19 pixels there, and then 53 for the megatree. So we're at the same 72 total. And what was that? 216 channels. So 1 plus 216 is equal to 217. So as you can see, my megatree base 2 starts at 217. Megatree base 3 starts at 433. That same number there. The next one, 649 for here, base 4, 649. So at megatree, and it's the same process. So here, start channel, we gotta make certain we assign this to start of model. This is a shadow model. We're gonna go to megatree, megatree 1, and then what did we say, 216, or 217 and so on. So you do the same process as we did before, and just with the calculator, and you just go through and get all your start channels, and those are your numbers. So once you have that, it'll be done. So then you can go into the programming side, and we can show you how this works. So go into Sequencer. I don't need this guy anymore. We'll just delete him. Since that's, yes, we know. There. So delete that, and now we'll go into the sequencer and create a new sequence and show you. So new sequence, animation, there. I have a model here of just the megatree. And let's see, let's enlarge this a bit, make it easier to see. So now, if I take a effect and put this on the megatree, and now this is the megatree, the full megatree that was in the shadow, essentially that was we put on that on its isolated preview screen. So as you can see, it's doing everything. Kind of, this may be a little hard to see here with the butterflies. We'll do a spiral. I'll just move this out here. Let's give it a little more movement. Thin it down. Maybe add another color. So there you go. So I'm doing this effect on the megatree, and you can see it's rendering because we assigned the channel numbers on the base. It's creating that same look that we see in the sequencing. If I move this spiral effect just to the upper section, it only does the upper section. Or if I go to the base, it's not going to look anything like this, like how we'd want it there, but you can see it on the base. So we can do effects on the upper section, on the whole tree. Now typically, like I said, I'm just going to do most of my programming on the whole tree, but there are going to be times, like if you want to put an image on the tree, an image, you're always going to want the image to be on the bottom. That's not going to be visible. So then you put that effect on the upper section. And it also gives you the ability, if you want to do various effects, like I could do on the upper section, we can have meteors here, and I could have the butterfly on the bottom. So I can do an effect like that. But that just opens up the possibilities into what you can do in the programming. So as I said, I do most of my programming just on the megatree as a whole. Like if I do meteors there, it looks really cool. You see them come down and then they all go towards the center. So Hope that helps. You can kind of see how I did that with creating the shadow models for the upper section and the base. They're basically just shadow models of the megatree, and the megatree itself is been relegated to this own little kind of preview screen here that I don't even worry about. I never even really look at it there, but with the upper section and the base assigned as shadow models to the other megatree, now as long as your channel assignments were done correctly, as I was showing earlier, everything is going to render correctly in Xlights, and their preview is going to match what's really happening when you build this. So hope that helps. Answer any questions. If you have anything else, just let me know. Thank you.